So let us, in solidarity with all of creation in this space and time, as we enter into this prayer for Earth and integral ecology. So let us situate ourselves in a comfortable position, and if possible, near a window that offers a view of the outside world. Sit mindfully, breathing calmly. Be attentive to what you see, as if seeing it for the first time. What catches your heart, your eye, your ears? Watch, listen, smell. Just be present to all. Take time to listen and contemplate as we reflect with this song, Creation Call.
Gazing at a bird in flight, soaring through the air, lying down beneath the stars. I feel your presence there. I love to stand at ocean shore and feel the thundering breakers roar. To walk through golden fields of grain, neath endless blue horizons listening to a river run, watering the earth, fragrance of a rose in bloom, a newborn's cry at birth. How could I say there is no God when all around creation calls? A singing bird, a mighty tree, the vast expanse of open sea. Yes, I love to stand at ocean shore and feel the thundering breakers roar, to walk through golden fields of rain, deep endless blue, horizons frame. I believe, I believe, just like a child. I believe.
We are faced not with two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. Strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. May the God who dances in creation, who embraces us with human love, who shakes our lives with thunder, bless us and drive us out with power to fill the world with God's justice and mercy. Amen.
Amen. And thank you, Maria, for that wonderful and very meaningful prayer as we start our session today. So I just want to welcome everyone again and bring us into this presence of holiness and respecting and acknowledging God's presence with each one of us. And for those who just joined, Easter joy to you. We also ask that you rename yourself and please put the countries where you're from behind your name so that we know how many people are from which country, and that will help Sashi as she works out the breakout group for our session later. So today is very exciting. There's a lot for me to share with you, but there will be points for breakout rooms and questions and answers. So I will start by sharing my screen. And I want to thank everyone for participating in the survey, and you will see the survey results shortly. It's really amazing. It's amazing. So I just want to do a little bit of a recap, because I realized from the responses that came in, perhaps some of us are still trying to understand what it means, integral ecology, and how do we then practice integral ecology within the context and the approach of towards integration. So what we have here is the content, which is the position paper on integral ecology. And we have here the approach, which is towards integration for mission effectiveness. And at the last session on February the 19th, we learned that all 9 units in Asia Pacific have integral ecology and integrated approach to mission in some way or other in all our province direction statements. So these 2 elements are not negotiable for us. And it's really a privilege and a blessing that we are starting to look at this in the beginning of your terms as new provinces, as new leadership teams leading your provinces. So let's just take a very quick look at what towards integration is all about. We know that this is found on page 6 of the booklet. The principles of integration can only happen when we open ourselves to listen to our own inner wisdom. That means it starts from the person, enter into the experiences of others. We talk to another person and we listen to the other person. We touch the reality of those at the margins. This would be people whom we work with, or our program participants, or just the context of our community and our country as a whole. Then we allow that shift in consciousness to happen within us. Shift in consciousness can sometimes be a very big word, but all it means is a change in our mindset and a change in the way we think and the way we act. Then we take risks and we respond daringly and innovatively. So the last 2 bullet points about taking risk and responding daringly and innovatively calls for us to be courageous, So this can be found on page 6 of the Towards Integration resource tool. So we saw this circles the last time as well, where we listen to our inner wisdom. That's found on personal reflection and journaling on page 19 of the resource tool. We enter into the experience of others. We use the 4 levels of listening, which is found on page 22 of the resource tool, and dialogue walks and conversation circles, which is found on page 23 of the resource tools. Then we go to the margins, we touch the reality of those at the margins. We use the sensing journey resource, which is found on page 23 of the resource tool. And then we allow the shift to happen within us. We take risks and we respond daringly and innovatively. So these are the principles of integration in a diagram where you can see the progression from the individual to the collective, to the program participants, and how it changes us so that we take risks and respond daringly and innovatively. Next, we look at the position paper on integral ecology. This is section number 6 of the paper. And we have here activity points from A to K. There are 11 activities here, which is recommended in the position paper, the Good Shepherd position paper. If you see, I have highlighted the active words, like from A is activate transformative spirituality, B is engage in critical analysis of one's own culture, C is convert individualism and communal behavior, D is study Catholic social teaching, do communal study and apply documents, E is ensure strategies for empowerment of women and girls in all our programs, F is advocate locally and internationally, G, engage in political action led by communities and groups, H is evaluate our communities, service projects and programs, I, evaluate and adjust personal and communal decisions, J, be politically active on issues, and K, use cross-sectional analysis to confront economic policies. So from February the 19th, up to April the 7th, we were all asked to go back to our units, to go back to our communities, to go back to our individual selves, and have a process of reflection, and to see what is it that as a person, as a community, as a unit, that we can do in addressing integral ecology in our units and in our countries. So this entire section 6 of the integral ecology paper actually calls for a radical transformation and a change in behavior patterns. Radical transformation and change in behavior patterns. I will come to this later again. We were asked to do this, when we go back to our from between February 19th to yesterday, to see what is the future that's emerging for us as a country and as a unit. How do we open ourselves to the principles of integration in that movement from I to we? How are we engaging the enablers, formation, partnership, co-responsibility for mission, in the integration of spirituality, justice and peace and good ministry practice? And how can formation be inclusive of everyone? So as units and as all of us who are gathered here today in this platform, I know that as you responded to the Google form and as you responded to what your unit is doing, each unit and each country had a different approach. Sometimes some of you may not have engaged everyone in your unit in a discussion, or you may have just engaged a certain number of people. It is fine, because this model takes us from where we are as our starting point. And this was what we were all encouraged to do during that time that we were away from each other. So now I want to share with you our journey together and the results of the Google form that came in. So the first question that was asked, what is the change of future that is emerging for your country and unit on integral ecology, Now, some countries responded, or some units responded with one response only for that particular unit. Some units responded with 4 responses, and some units with 3, and some units adopted units that were had more countries in one unit. Example, like Northeast Asia and East Asia and Sri Lanka, Pakistan, it was individual countries that responded. So what I've done here is I've put all your responses together according to the units where you come from, and they're all arranged alphabetically. So it's not one better than the other, but they're all arranged alphabetically. And let's see what the collective response is. So for Australia, New Zealand, it is to have a culture of carriers and advocates for integral ecology, shift from ego to eco mindset towards planet Earth. Next, we have Central East India, Nepal. This unit wants to have awareness and take action for ecological integration, move from doing to being, allow shift to happen, take risk, and respond daringly. Next, we have East Asia. For Myanmar, it's concern for climate change and good practice for eco-justice. Thailand and Cambodia, individual and communal consciousness of integral ecology. For Vietnam, creation of green environment in all Good Shepherd communities and ministries. And I just want to shout out to Vietnam, because as they submitted their Google form, they also sent to me all their process, the thinking process that they've gone by looking at the outcome, the outputs, the activities, and the input. So Vietnam, thank you very much for progressing your thinking that way already. Today, we will continue to do this, and perhaps as we do more, you can then match your work with what we are doing today. Next, we have Indonesia. Indonesia has expressed greater awareness, understanding and practice of integral ecology in all communities. Next, we have Northeast Asia. For Hong Kong, which is the Maricold School, connecting interdependence of persons and nature. Korea, application of towards integration, Laudato Si, and environmental justice. Macau, practice composting, waste return to the soil as nourishment. Taiwan, implementation of integral ecology in programs. We have Philippines, Japan, integrated mission, reflecting justice, ecological spirituality, and practices. Singapore, Malaysia, greater awareness of integral ecology, shift in individual and communal consciousness, implementation of integral ecology in all programs. Southwest India, integrated approach to address social injustice, ego to eco consciousness, safe ecology concept, care and protect common home. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, they have this statement that they see as their outcome, the overall outcome for the country: healthy, joyful, and harmonious society with our common home, Earth, responding to environmental crisis in our country. And Pakistan, the awareness of integral ecology. So if we look at all this, my dear friends, look at where your country is and look at what each one is saying. When I saw this, I was so excited, because when I look at this, I think if all of us in Asia Pacific do what we are committed to do, by this year end, we will surely see such a big shift in all our programs, in our own response to care for the earth, which our common home, So if we look at this and if we put it all together, what do you think will happen as a region? I just want to propose this to you, and I've taken this as a quote from the Earth Charter 2000, and this quotation is in our Good Shepherd position paper on integral ecology. So if you look at this, the operative word is join together to bring forth a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. So if you look at the overall quote from the Earth Charter, and we look at each of our units and each of our countries and the action plan that we want to do, don't you find respect for nature very much there? Universal human rights, because we're talking about, a rights-based approach. And then we're talking about economic justice, because when we care for the earth, there will be enough employment, etc., and that whole culture of peace and reconciliation and compassion and care for each other. So this is the plan for your country, for your unit, and for the region as a whole. I think this is so exciting. So this is the answer to the first question that we have. Next, what was the process your country or unit used to derive the above responses? This is a collective response, yeah? So you can see here, we have 27 responses. 88% had individual reflection. That means people listened to their own self first and what the spirit was saying. And then they worked in their community or their work groups. 18%, 66% had collective conversations and listening to each other. Another 63% engaged with program participants. Yeah, and then the rest used social media, and they linked up with friends and people whom they were connected with. So this was the process that was used. The second thing is, who did your country or unit engage with to derive on the above, on the responses that you had? Again, 88% had conversations with sisters. 85% included lay mission partners as well. 17% included program participants, and 44% included other persons or organizations. So this, in terms of percentage-wise, you will see that the three biggest areas of engagement were sisters and lay mission partners, and after that, program participants. Yeah, 88%, 85%, and 63%. And other persons not connected to the organization was 44%. So let's look at which activity or activities in section 6 of the position paper will your country and unit be implementing to achieve the change that you want to see. This is so exciting because this is the collective approach to the integral ecology paper. So if we look at this, all the sections are covered, all the sections from A to K, everyone is touched upon. And the ones with the highest responses is item C, 84%, 84.6% said that they will convert individual and communal practices and behavior patterns. The next highest on the list is 20% of 76.9%, which is ensure strategies and empowerment for program participants, especially women and girls. Next highest that we have here, 73.1%, 19 responses is this: activate transformational spirituality within our units and countries. Next, we have the fourth highest would be evaluate our communities and our behavior patterns. And the fifth one would be ensure strategies for empowerment. So these are the main 5 points that came from your collective responses. And if we look at the position papers, these are the collective responses. C, convert individualism and communal behavior. Then we have E as the next one, ensure strategies for empowerment of women and girls in all our programs. Then we have A, activate a transformative spirituality. We have H, evaluate our communities, service projects and programs. And I, evaluate and adjust personal and communal decisions. So out of 11 points, the 5 highest are these. The 5 highest are these. And almost all the units and countries have got responses for individual and collective behavior change. Because if we look at this screen now, individual and collective behavior changes are in A, C, H, and I. I repeat, A, C, H, and I. And arising from this, we are also looking at our strategies of empowerment for empowerment of women and girls in our programs. So if we look at what you have responded, the 5 major things that each one of us will do in Asia Pacific, can you see the change that will happen in the region? Can you see the change? So arising from this, I just want to show you another diagram of how this happens. If you can't picture this, this is what actually happens. The pathway to transformation. The self, which is A, C, H, and I. These are the items in the position paper. Individual transformation. Community and workplace transformation. This will be local transformation. And in the local transformation, you will see E is included in, which is evaluate our programs for women and girls. So we have all the 5 items in local transformation. When you transform yourself and your community and your workplace, automatically your country and your units are transformed. And that is the collective transformation. And in this collective transformation, we still have A, C, E, H, and I. When your country and units are going through collective transformation, then we have in Asia Pacific, the regional transformation. The regional transformation. When we have a regional transformation, we will have the Good Shepherd congregation, the global transformation. Hopefully, hopefully, because our influence is only up to Asia Pacific. We do not have an influence in Latin America or Africa or Europe or Middle East. But we do have an interest to see that the entire Good Shepherd congregation undergoes a transformation. So when we come to global transformation, it is a dotted line. It is a dotted line because from global transformation, entire systems, structures, and systems within countries transform, and our program participants will be the ultimate beneficiaries. So this is the sequence and the pathway of transformation. When I saw this, I was so excited because it starts from the individual to the community, to the country and units, to the region of Asia Pacific. And this is our pathway for transformation. So I have this question to ask you. What was significant for you as you listen to this, to us sharing, and as you look at, how you yourself, whether you are sitting in Hong Kong, whether you are sitting in Korea at the moment, whether you're in Singapore, or whether you're in Pakistan, or January in Australia, as you sit and then as you look at what your location is doing, and then when you look at it and it's mapped against the entire Good Shepherd congregation in Asia Pacific, and you can see how when you flap your wings in Australia, how the effect is felt into Indonesia, into Singapore, Malaysia, into Philippines, into India, into Sri Lanka, Pakistan, into Northeast Asia, into East Asia, and you see this whole thing, the ripple effect. So what was significant for you and what excited you as you saw this? I just want us to just spend 2 or 3 moments, with if you have a writing pen or if you have a notebook near you, just write 1 or 2 words to your response to this. Your response to these 2 questions. And then I will stop sharing screen, and maybe we can have maybe 5 minutes just listening to each other, and you can also type into the chat box. So I'm just giving you 1 minute to, to just reflect on these 2 questions. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing screen now. Then we're going to go into the plenary here. And please feel free to key in the chat box. So for all of us, just have your chat box open at the side and you will see people keying in, and maybe we can hear from the group here 1 or 2 reactions from you. Anyone, just raise your hand or shout out if you want to say something. But in the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there is a feature to raise your hand. So if you raise your hand, I will see you and we can invite you to just give your response. Anyone who wants to start? Anything that comes to your mind? It's also important to articulate, not just to key in the chat box if you can, so that we can hear each other.
Teresa,
Yes, please go ahead.
I just felt like as you were talking, the whole ripple effect possible, it's visualized, of course, through the circles. But what struck me was that there is the individual and the communal in many sections that we have all chosen. So we are already working with the mindset change of we are having to work with others, with lay mission partners, and it's not previously we can think it's always about me changing, but me changing, and we need to together change. That struck me very much. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So it's moving from the I to the we, and that we have already started this journey of moving together. Yes, Gina from Philippines, and then Francine. Gina, can you put on your video if it's possible? If it's not possible, it's okay. I know your internet is weak in Mary Ridge. You're muted, Regina. Oops, she disappeared. Francine, would you like to go first? And then we wait for Regina to come back.
I felt that together we can make a difference in the world as one Good Shepherd force.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And we are a force, we are in 19 countries. We are not just in one country. And in 19 countries, we are not just one person. In Sri Lanka, Pakistan, how many people do we have, Francine?
350 something.
300 over sisters.
Yes,
Only
sisters.
And a few hundred mission partners, and 26,000 children in school, and maybe another few thousand in the program services. So this is our collective strength. Yes, Gina, are you here already? Or not back? Anyone else wants to just share a reaction? We see a lot of reactions like thumbs up, you know, clap. Yes, Kala, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, I felt it is the change starts from me. That is micro change, and it affects the macro change. That is the global. So whatever change that I need to see in the global level, I need to start within myself.
Yes.
So that is what I learned when I saw your, the reflection that you presented.
Yes, thank you, Kala. And I just want to add on to what Kala shared. No, if previously we look at this and we say, "Oh, I'm on my own. No, how am I going to do this? It's such a big task." But today we are not on our own. We have how many people on screen? 114, and we have 19 countries all moving together. And I will share with you the responses of your 19 countries, which I've already actually emailed out last night, you know. And you can see from there how we are all moving as one. I just want Peter to share a little bit. Peter, I see you key in, I will be a hummingbird. Can you just share a little bit what you mean by that?
Yeah, I was reminded of the story when we did that, the skill facilitation program.
Yes.
The role of the hummingbird, maybe the smallest one, and one drop it could, contribute to putting the fire off. So we may be in a small world where our access is very little and limited, but the contribution that we can make is worth.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. And you know, when I look at your responses, I knew that some of the responses were cognitive responses, because you didn't have time to actually consult people. So maybe 2 or 3 people got together on the Google form and then they discussed and put in the responses. But I know that in some units, you actually gathered the people together. You actually spent time and you said, all the program heads, please come together on Zoom and let's see how to do this together. I know some units did that. So we are all at different starting points. And thank you, Peter. The hummingbird example is really good, because wherever we are, if we start it, there will be an effect, overall effect. And it doesn't matter where your starting point is. The important thing is to start. And the second half of this presentation, I will show you how to start. And there will be a process to do this, which is the theory of change. So I will now go back to sharing screen and bring you to the next processes, the theory of change, okay? The theory of change ahead. And if you look at this signage, it's a little bit blur, no? It's not so sharp, because we are never sharp and we never know what's ahead, because the only constant in any change is change itself. So what is a theory of change? This part will have a little bit of input, because I cannot water down the actual theory, and I'm interested to share the actual theory with you rather than to give you an impression of the theory. So what is the theory of change? A theory of change is a rigorous yet participatory process whereby groups and stakeholders in a planning process articulate their long-term goals, which is the impact, and identify the conditions they believe have to unfold for those goals to be met. These conditions are modeled as desired outcomes, arranged graphically in a causal framework. Very big words. I will show you how it works very soon. It's very easy when you understand it. So what is an impact or a long-term goal? Positive and negative, intentional or accidental, direct and indirect, primary or secondary effects created by the project, which can be observed after the project ends. So for us as Asia Pacific doing integral ecology, what is the long-term goal that we desire? What is the long-term goal that we desire? A sustainable goal, a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. This is our intended long-term goal as Good Shepherd when we talk about the integral ecology position paper. Okay, so I'm going to break down all the different terms and contrast it to our project so that you can understand what it means. Can you still hear me? Because I had a message that my internet connection was unstable. Am I still visible to all of you?
Yes,
Wow.
visible.
Yes,
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 okay,
Teresa.
great, thank you so much. So next we move on to what is the meaning of outcomes. Outcomes, the expected and measurable changes that the beneficiaries of the project services encounter. So in this case, the beneficiaries would be our program participants, as well as ourselves, as well as Good Shepherd, yeah? They can be changes in behaviors, knowledge, skills, attitudes, social or personal status, which are deemed necessary to reach the impact goal. The causal connection between early outcomes, intermediate outcomes, and final outcomes represent the pathway of change. Now, I've shown you the pathway of change just now, starting from the individual to the local transformation, to the collective transformation, to the regional transformation. So when we do our project now, we have to ask ourselves, what are the outcomes that we will see that will tell us that we are becoming a global society that is that's based on human rights, ecological justice, etc. So those are outcomes. Now, if we look at these outcomes, all the things that you have done here, each one from each country is the outcome that is pertinent to your individual location. So if we look at Philippines and Japan, integrated mission reflecting justice, ecological spirituality, and practices. And then we look at this definition of the outcomes. This one, they can be changes in behavior, knowledge, skills, attitudes, social and personal status. Go back to this and look at this. So you know when you are successful in doing this project, when you can experience within Philippines, Japan, you can experience that your mission is becoming integrated and it's reflecting justice, ecological spirituality, and practices. Then the next question you ask yourself is, how do we know we have achieved this? In the same way, for Australia, when you talk about culture, culture means individual and communal transformation. You cannot have a culture with one person changing. A culture means it goes into the way you do things, your behavior patterns, your policies, your processes, your procedures. So Australia and New Zealand will ask themselves, if this is the outcome we want to see to contribute to the overall impact of global change in integral ecology, how will we know that we have achieved this culture? Same thing with Singapore, Malaysia. You want to implement integral ecology in all the programs and this shift in individual and communal consciousness. How will you know you have achieved this? These are your outcomes. These are the outcomes that you want to see in your individual units and countries, okay? Now we will go to what are outputs. The number of typology of tangible products and services produced. As a result of the activities in a defined time span, it is a good practice to value the outputs beyond going beyond a numeric listing towards quality assessment. Example, number of participants who successfully completed training. Now, what are outputs? Okay, I have two examples from this map that you have given. I picked up two examples, and these are examples of an output. We have Macau. Macau wants to practice composting. Compost as fertilizer for plants and liquid detergent. And in Southwest India, they have put in their spreadsheet to form eco clubs and have safe ecology concepts. So when you look at these two from Macau and Southwest India as example of outputs, yeah, you will see here the tangible products and services produced as a result of the activities. So the tangible product that's produced here is composting as an outcome, and then you have fertilizer for plants and liquid detergent. And for Southwest India, is they want to form clubs. I suppose the clubs are in schools, and to also have a safe ecology concept. So this is an example of an output. Next, type of results defined. Okay, you have the output, the products and services which result from a development intervention and which are relevant to the achievement of an outcome. Then you have the outcome, and from the outcome, you have the impact. So this is the flow of how it works. I will show you another example. What are activities, program components set in place to produce the outputs? And what are inputs, resources provided to realize the activities in terms of economic resources, time, skills, facilities, etc. I know this is a little bit heavy for some, but I will show you some more examples to make it easier for you. And you will have all the slides after this, including the recording of this session. So what do we mean by all these terminologies? Okay, and these are assumptions and enablers. Assumptions are conditions that are needed and are in place for the success of the program, and enablers are players in the context of the towards integration resource tool. Enablers are also formation, yeah? Players meaning internal and external stakeholders that have to be involved to foster a positive evolution of the project or achieve a specific step and vision in the theory of change. Okay, so don't worry if you're lost, I will show you what it means. And these are indicators. Indicators are the signals of change and measures of progress that will be used to assess the achievement of the results. So indicators are like this. If today, we are starting with a particular project, and the project, we will take Macau as an example, to do composting. So if today they do not have fertilizer for their plants and they do not have liquid detergent yet, and they enter into the activity of composting, and then the output that they have is the compost, which is the fertilizer and the liquid detergent. So how do you measure what is an indicator? A qualitative indicator is based on logical interpretation or other sources. They assess the cause-effect correlation and the intangible. That means these perceptions and attitudes. So when we talk about qualitative indicator, we will be talking about the change in the Good Shepherd mission partners in Macau, how their behavior changes have taken place. And we will see that today, after they eat, they will automatically do composting of the food waste that they have. Quantitative will be measurable data about the results that they achieve. So quantitative will be how many bottles of fertilizer did they manage to produce? How many liquid detergent did they produce? How much savings did they have? How many plants and vegetables, are now grown organically instead of using artificial fertilizer, etc., etc. These are indicators. Okay, I will show you more. So indicators are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So in a diagram, this is how it works. From an input to the activities, activities lead to the output, to the outcomes, to the impact. Then you have the indicators, the enablers, and the assumptions, and they move in a circle. Don't worry if it's too much. I will now show you more examples. This is called a result chain. Okay, so these are inputs. These are inputs. Financial, human, and material resources. Okay, from the input, you do the activity. Activities undertaken to transform inputs into outputs. After you do the activities, you have the outputs. What you expect to see. So in this case, the expected to see is fertilizer. Okay, fertilizer to be used for plants and to be used as liquid detergent. I mean, compost to be used as liquid detergent. The end products and services, deliverables from the activities, and this is within the team's control. Okay. Next, we have the outcomes. The one to see. So what is Macau going to do with the fertilizer that they have? So what they are saying is they want to use the fertilizer for the plants, So these are the immediate effects on beneficiaries beyond the team's control, but achievable given the necessary conditions. So the outcomes they want to see would be healthier plants. They want to see the nourishment of the soil. So they are using the compost back to the soil. So they hope to see the soil becoming better so that they can have better plants and vegetables. And what is the impact that they want to create? Long-term development improvements to which we contribute. So by doing this, Good Shepherd Macau is contributing to less garbage. It's contributing to a global, hopefully there will be contribution to the global effect in Macau itself on the reduction of garbage and waste, etc. So when we look at this is the implementation and these are the results. Okay, these are the implementation and these are the results. In another way, what is the sequence? From the impact, we prepare down, and then from the activities, we check the logic up. Normally in Good Shepherd, I'm not sure if you agree with me, but I know for myself, when I see something that needs to be done, the first thing I do is I go straight into the activity. I will straight away look at it and I will say, now, what is the activity that I can do to address this that I'm seeing? Okay, so I go straight into a flurry of activity and I will engage people, go and get money, look for donation, and then engage people and start doing the activity already. But in the theory of change, the correct way to do is always to ask ourselves, what is the change and the impact that you want to see in your community, in your programs? And how will we measure the change and the impact? And so you work downwards, and then you plan your activities upwards. So when you do it, it works like this: prepare down, okay, check logic up. Example is Macau, okay? A sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. This is the overall impact that Good Shepherd wants to create. This is Macau's contribution, okay? Macau, the outcome they want to see is their waste, the food waste, return to the soil as nourishment. That's the outcome. What is the output that they will have? They will practice composting, use fertilizer for plants in the garden and liquid detergent. Next, what is the activity that they will do? This is their own response, yeah, in that spreadsheet that they submitted to us. After morning, noon, and evening meals, they will recycle the fruit peels and the eggshells, etc. And what is the input that has to go in before the activity can take place? People, time to eat, no? You must have the food, no? To get the fruit peels and the eggshells, then you may have to have recycled bins, you may have to have a place, etc., etc. So when we look at this, if this is the overall impact that we want, Macau is just doing one thing. They are the hummingbird, no? The hummingbird. They are just doing one outcome, and the outcome is just to do composting, okay? And when they do composting, these are the outputs that they will get. This is the activity that they will do, and this is the things that they need. So we will have to check the logic up. How do we do this? Check the logic. You start here with the activity, no? You will have the Macau community, the program participants, and they will every day meet morning, noon, and dinner time for their meals. They start here. If we carry out this, that means they put the fruit waste and the fruit peels and the eggshells into a bin, the activity, yeah? Then will we deliver these outputs? Will they get the compost that they need? If we get the compost that we need, will we get the outcome that we want? That means the outcome will be the compost, yeah? These outputs will be the fertilizer and the compost for liquid detergent. The outcome will be their waste will go back to nourishing the soil. If we get this kind of outcomes, will we then contribute to the overall impact of global change? Okay, so this is a very simple explanation using a very simple explanation and example of Macau, and just using one activity, which is composting, So this is how it works. Okay, this is how it works. How do you do this? How do you do this? What are the steps that are needed to do this? Okay, the first thing that you need to do is to plan your process. Plan your process. The purpose of your theory will affect the process you use and who you involve. Who are the enablers? Who are the people that you need to have in the table of conversation? Who are the decision makers? Who are the staff? Who are the beneficiaries? Who are the stakeholders? Does your organization have an existing vision and value statement? So you need to plan your process. Second thing is collect evidence of need and context. The theory of change is rooted in clear understanding of the issue you want to address. So I take Australia, New Zealand as an example again. They want to have a culture of carriers and advocates of integral ecology. So if you want to have this as your ultimate outcome for your unit, the thing that you need to ask yourself is, what is this outcome rooted in, and what is the need that you need to do? Evidence of need and evidence of context, evidence of effectiveness of other interventions. That means you need to ask yourself, are there other things happening outside of Good Shepherd in Australia that is a good practice? You need to do a root cause analysis and use the rights-based approach. Philippines, you want to change the entire system and have integral ecology and transformation in the entire unit. That's a very big ambition, no? So you need to do the second bit and collect evidence of need and context in the same way with Sri Lanka, Central East India, Southwest India, Singapore, Malaysia, etc. Next, you need to agree on your intended impact. So for us as Good Shepherd, we have the Justice and Peace position paper. Our intended impact is already agreed by the congregation. And our intended impact is a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. So this is already our intended impact. So what is the long-term impact that the project is addressing? So now when you ask these 3 bullet points, you ask in your country specific. So if Myanmar is looking at eco-justice, okay, what do you mean when you say eco-justice? What is the long-term effect that you want to see happen in Myanmar? And this is your starting point. Your starting point is not the activity. The starting point is the long-term impact that you want to see happen. Okay. Number four, articulate your long-term outcomes. Work backwards from your impact to think about the changes that need to happen in order to achieve it. So when we did the session on February 19th, I asked you, what is the change that you want to see in your unit by 31st December? And you came up with all these changes here in this little map here, which is the change that you want to see in your unit. So these are your outcomes, which I think are long-term outcomes because they are very, very good outcomes that you have. So if you look at this, you need to identify these from the root causes and the problems that you're trying to address, and what are the indicators that will tell you that this outcome is achieved. So when you're doing this, I encourage you to use the resource tool towards integration resource tool, because there are very helpful questions here, like to identify what your challenges are, to shift from an ego to an eco mindset. What are the blockages? What if at your highest future potential, what do you think you can achieve at the highest future potential? And how do you get there? So for Macau, their long-term outcome is waste returns to the soil as nourishment. This is what they hope to achieve. You look at number 5, map your intermediate outcomes backwards. So for Macau, what they want to do is they want to practice composting. So when you look at practicing composting, it is a behavior change, no? You change your behavior pattern. If before you used to throw away the eggshells, you used to throw away the fruit peels, today you are saying, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to bury it and I'm going to let it go through a process of composting. So that is a behavior change. Work backwards and plot the preceding stages in much greater detail. What changes need to happen before your long-term outcomes can occur? What are the indicators that will tell you that this outcome is achieved? So what is the indicator for Macau to say that they are achieving composting? Every day after doing this for 1 month, every day automatically everyone, instead of going to the garbage bin, they will straight away go to the composting bin and drop off their fruit peels and drop off their eggshells there. And then they will walk back to the garbage bin and put the rest for recycling, whether it's tissue, whether it's plastic or whatever. So that is a behavior change that we want to see. And in the mindset after this, all the people from Macau, even at home, will start to recycle and do compost from the fruit peels and from the eggshells that, the leftover eggshells. So this is what we call an intermediate outcome, mapping it backwards. And what are the outputs? Identify your outputs. So for Macau, the output is fertilizer for the plants and liquid detergent. That's the output that they see, no? So what are the outputs, the products, services, or facilities that will bring about the identified outcomes? Who do you need to collaborate with to achieve these outputs? What are the indicators that will measure the outputs? Okay, so who do you need to collaborate with? I've taken Macau as a very simple example, because this is the starting point. Okay, now let's look at Korea. For Korea, they have 2 or 3 things that they want to do. First is they want to implement towards integration in Korea itself, in the entire Korea, in a country. So how will they know the outputs when they say they want to do this integrated framework in the unit? So when we look at the integrated approach to mission effectiveness, we have all the elements, the 5 different elements. So if I were Korea, I will look at this and say, what are the outputs that I will know, from these 5 different elements to tell me that I'm successful? How many mission partners do I have? What are the training programs that I do for mission partners? How many partners are trained in knowing the spirituality of Good Shepherd, in knowing the stories of St. Mary Euphrasia? Who else must I engage in this? In terms of justice and peace, how are we reading Laudato Si? Because that is part of the outcome that you want, Korea. And the other thing that you want is to look at the position papers. Like Taiwan wants to implement the position papers. So what is the output that you must have before the position papers can be implemented? So one of the key outputs for Taiwan would be how many sessions will they be having to study the position papers? And what is the change what's the indicator will be? What is the change in every staff member's knowledge of the position papers? So you need to do a pre-test and a post-test for that. So these are outputs. Next, we look at activities. For Macau, the activity is after morning, noon, and evening meals, they will recycle fruit peels and eggshells. So activities are, what are the activities that are needed to happen to deliver the outputs? Who needs to be part of these activities? And what are the training needs? So if assuming Southwest India wants to form an eco club, so for Southwest India, the output will be the eco club itself, and number of participants, number of members, etc., etc. So Southwest India will need to plan what are the activities that we need to carry out to form this eco club. So it may be publicity, it may be, engaging people, it may be doing posters, it may be, having a membership drive, it may be different things. All the activities that you need to do to form the eco club. Those are activities. Next is assumptions. What are the assumptions? Assumptions are conditions that need to be in place to make the theory work. What are the links between the inputs and the outputs and the outcomes, and the outcomes and the impact? What are the key factors that will derail your project? So very simply, one assumption that must exist for Macau is everyone in the community must agree to the project. So if you have people, 5 of them, and only 1 wants to do this project and the other 4 don't want to do it, the project will not work. You will not be able to do composting. So these are assumptions, okay? And the next thing is you establish your timelines and you plan your resources. When will this happen? What are the inputs that are needed to make this happen? And then you can produce a diagram or a write-up on your theory of change, okay? On your theory of change. I'm going to stop here and look at you, and I'm not sure how you are at the moment. Are you thoroughly confused, or you roughly understand what I'm trying to say? And you can follow the flow, because I've taken a very simple example of composting. But
Thoroughly
you're
understood.
thoroughly thank you, Benedict. Can I just have a reaction from people? I see thumbs up. You know, I see very clear. Thank you so much. When I was preparing this, I wasn't sure whether I was going to be too theoretical and lose all of you in the process, you know. Yeah, so I just want to also thank Macau. You know, when I was looking at how to do this, I saw Macau's outcome and I said, praise God, no? There is someone with a very simple starting point that I can use as an example. The one precious hummingbird from the Northeast Asia. You know, so this is the process that you follow, and I will give you the slides, and I make myself available to any unit that wants to have a second session and just come, you know, just your unit, no? If you just want to clarify from your own outcome that you have done and ask me to explain again so that you can go back and do your own mapping of outcomes, outputs, activities, and inputs, you know, and look at spirituality and look at enablers and look at formation, no? And see how it can all be integrated into that one project that you have. I offer myself, and I also offer the Asia Pacific Integrated Committee, whoever is available, no, to journey with each unit on this, because it's a process, and this is a good ministry practice, yeah. Okay, so I go back to sharing screen. The next thing that we will do is you will go into breakout rooms. And you will go into breakout rooms by your units, okay, or your countries. So Sashi-ji, are you here, Sashi-ji? Oh, Sashi, where are you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I
Sashi,
am, and
yes.
I
have you figured out the groupings?
I just would like to. Yeah. I figured it out unit-wise.
Okay.
And Singapore, Malaysia is a big classroom. So I have put them into 2 rooms because
Okay.
it will be, I feel it will be very difficult for them.
How many in Singapore, Malaysia?
I think about 22.
Okay,
plus.
wait, let me ask them, because they got together as a unit to plan, you see. So for those from Singapore, Malaysia, do you want to be in 2 groups or you want to be in 1 group? Okay, you know the reaction button at the bottom? If it's 1 group, please type the word yes. Click on the word yes. The reaction button, those from Singapore, Malaysia, there's a plus, a tick, no? Okay, we've got yeses here. We've got yes. If anyone disagree, please put no, okay? We've got yes. Okay, Sashi.
Okay, so it's 1.
Yes,
no problem, it can be worked out.
Yes, just 1 group. Because they got together as a unit to do it. Okay, so now,
And we don't have some who have not renamed themselves, so I'm a little unsure and it's not done. Okay. And in the meanwhile, we also do not have from Indonesia, other than Goretti, I don't find others. So that's the status.
Okay, so doesn't matter, we will put the units down, and how we will do this is you will go to the room yourself. We will not push you in, okay? So
I've done most of it.
Yes, and 15 minutes is okay with you, Sashi?
Yeah.
Okay, 15 minutes. So what you do is on your Zoom screen, right at the bottom, you will see a function that says join breakout room. Click on that, and then all the names of the breakout rooms will appear, and you select your unit, okay? You select your unit. If you don't know the unit you belong to, it doesn't matter. Just remain on the screen, and then we will assign you after that once everyone goes in. And you will have 15 minutes. And I will now post the question in the chat box. copy link, put the link in, and the link is here. This is the link in the chat box. This is for the Google form. Okay, I'm going to share screen again. Don't go into your rooms yet. I'm going to share screen again. And this is your self-select breakout rooms, okay? Self-select. You go to the breakout rooms and click, and then you will see your country and unit, and then you enter and join that country and unit, and you will answer these questions. Very simple questions. What are your insights on the theory of change as a good ministry practice? Looking at the change you want to see in your country and unit, who will you engage in your discussions? When will you begin planning as a community and workplace group? When will you progress to planning as a country and unit? And what will be your starting point? So when you look at these questions, from these questions and these responses, you will see that what we are asking of ourselves is, who needs to be at the table of conversation with each of us, okay? When will you begin planning as a community? That means in your locations, your communities. And I'm asking you this next question. When will you progress to planning as a country or as a unit? Because from the responses that came back, it was obvious that for some places, they did it as individuals or programs, and it was not brought together as a country or as a unit. So when we are looking at moving from an ego system to an ecosystem, from the I to the we need to start thinking of ourselves beyond our local context and to look at it as a country and a unit. And why must we do this? Because it is in your province direction statements that you must address integral ecology and integrated approach to mission effectiveness. If it's not in your province direction statements, it can stop at the local scenario. But because it's in your province direction statements, you have to bring it together as a unit, as a country, and then as a unit. And what will be your starting point? So from your responses, when will you progress to planning as a country and a unit? We will then plan the next session that we will have as a region, because you need to finish this first before we can come back again as a region. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing screen, and Sasi G, are we ready? I'm going to share screen now, and let's look at our responses, and then we can decide on the next date for our regional meeting. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me make it bigger. Okay, let me make it bigger. We've got 10 responses, which is good. That means we got all the units have responded. Okay, let's look at the first question. What are your insights on the theory of change as a good ministry practice? Sashi, are you in a good internet space? Would you like to tango with me on this?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, I will start first, yeah? Ask ourselves what we need to, ask ourselves what we want to change, practical actions, follow each step to be adapted and changed according to the signs of the times, sector, unit, congregation. Provides structure, make sure we are working together to the same outcome, safe way to speak about blocks or barriers, constructive way to speak about the change we want, prompts us to achieve the goals, takes us from what we can control to what we are hoping for, outward looking. Over to you, Sashi.
Global perspective, connectedness, networking. Bring more people around, as our province direction needs to be more aware of with respect to integral ecology, which connected a lot with other issues in opposition papers and Lord Arthur C. When we plan out according to theory of change, effectiveness of our plans is obvious. We can reach out to our goals in a more systematic manner. We need to consider all the elements of theory of change. Begin with the impact, outcome, output, activity, and input. See the full scope. We need time and space to discuss.
Okay, we have a theory of change in action, In the upcoming one, we will incorporate integral ecology with focus initiating from the impact. We have already initiated the top to bottom approach, keeping in mind the direction paper of the province. Nepal has the theory of change to be revised for next 5 years with ecology incorporated. The session today by Teresa was very helpful. We need to see what the theory of change percolates to local. Okay, the change theory is very well understood and we need to practice.
Theory of change is a very good practice for us to collaborate from the local to a global perspective. Unique as we start with the impact and outcome already, and that is a new concept and a shift that we must apply. Provides a framework for action-oriented and goal-oriented change towards practically achieving the planned outputs and outcomes rather than just stating broad rhetorical statements. Enables attitudinal change. It is very corporate and helps to keep the end in mind. Make sure the goals are achievable and measurable. In the school, we have thought of forming eco clubs and can start this activity with this framework in mind. We need to have few activities and ensure that we facilitate that change. For example, the eco clubs can be started in the schools, in the communities, in our residential ministries, in the village outreach programs. Then we can see the change in it. Have to do it consciously and concretely. Otherwise, this change will not take place. Awareness is very important.
We have to concentrate on 1 or 2 activities, should not be spread too thin if we really want to make progress. Begin to be conscious about recycling of the food waste, making productive and healthy items apart from the composting. Care for the earth that are under our care, make it a place for healthy spiritual ground. One can begin to be in being. An internal process to be in place, surely attitudinal change. It is an ongoing process. Learn to respect as human beings, as reverential beings. Organized and inclusive, the theory has a long-term impact. Help our implementation more structured and need to get used to the process. Systematic, time-consuming, and there will be check and balance. Emphasize the importance of planning. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your responses on the insights of theory of change as a good ministry practice, because this theory is now a requirement for all donor agencies. And this theory, if you adopt this theory, is a very good ministry practice because it incorporates monitoring and evaluation and giving us a pathway to achieving what we want. It also helps us to address root causes and not just the manifestations of the core problem that we are addressing. So let's look at the change you want to see in your country. Who will you engage in your discussions? So we have here, if we look at this, we have a combination of sisters, mission partners, participants, beneficiaries, local leaders in our ministries, Executive Authority of Good Shepherd Australia, New Zealand, linked to the PLT Stewardship Council, New Zealand Board and Leadership Agreement to engage in the congregational goal. So if we look at Australia, New Zealand, we see that they have revised their governance structures already. And now they're looking at engaging the boards and leadership at that level. All partners and mission, all sisters and mission partners hope to get some participants, eco committees, mission partners, and everyone working with you. You got government officials, parishioners, like-minded people. You've got sisters, lay partners, program participants, stakeholders, government officials if possible, panchayat leaders, local community around your ministry. You got panchayats, government officials, municipality instructions, everyone in the units. Agree to establish eco clubs in all settings. Schools have eco clubs. You have villagers, okay, all right. everyone in the unit. So if we look at this, it's everyone in the unit, including your external stakeholders, which are your government officials and other like-minded people. I think you will also be including your students and program participants. Now, these are very interesting dates. When will you begin planning as a community? So we have here, starting from March to June, people are planning. And then we have as a planning as a unit and country level, we have July 15th as the last one. So I want to ask all of you, looking at this, our next regional gathering. Do you want to have our next regional gathering in July? Okay, we will look at this afterwards when I stop sharing screen. And then we ask the next question, what will be your starting point? So Sashi, I will do this with you. Based on the theory of change to see our outputs, outcomes, and activities, maintain good practices, save water, food, electricity, replace plastic bags by our own containers. That means do not use plastic bags anymore. So January to set Zoom for group workshops, plan the theory of change to be presented to leadership groups, to be prioritized, cultural behavioral change. First, our thinking is naturally aligned to integral ecology. Sashi?
We will start on April 24th on St. Mary Euphrasia's Feast Day. Deep understanding towards the integral ecology, from spirituality to integration of the elements. We have already planned in the year 2020 in November, but we are going to revisit our plan on the 22nd of April 2021 as a group. We have a deeper dialogue with wider participation of mission partners.
Reviewing. Go ahead.
A review of the strategic plan at the province level, discussion with sisters and lay mission partners, prepare simplified version of integral ecology and integrated approach so that the program participants actively participate in the process. Yes,
province, yes, thank you. The province strategic plan preparation with integral ecology as part, and then have a clear understanding, study the documents and resource material, and then simplify the resource material for the program participants. Then we have reflections and educate the participants according to their level. It is different for different participants. Then we need to design simple activities for communities, school children, etc. Then work with bigger activities and wider community. Working with leadership has to be the first at every level. The person who is at the wheel has to be motivated. Totally agree with this. Start in the local communities, then level off with local communities. Something is not right in this sentence. Anyway, consider awareness of units and partners, especially when we are coming up with activities and outcomes in order to include everyone. It is important that we are able to engage and to educate everyone before being able to actually spark outcomes. We have decided to organize a webinar for Southwest India to develop a shared vision and theory of change. Sister Hilda, Shushma, and Benedict will organize it sometime in May. To roll out the position paper, Good Shepherd on Integral Ecology, and begin the process of planning. Every individual and communal will be carrying out the actions with intention and commitment. This process includes the sisters, lay partners, and program participants. So thank you very much for these starting points, which look very good. I will consolidate the data here and share with everyone and the PowerPoint that was used today. And then when the video becomes available, we will put it on YouTube so that you can also continue to review and to watch it. Now, I go back to our question of having the next regional sharing, to see where we are. Do you want to have that in July? Is there anything on in July on the congregational level? Any chapter planning committee person here? Anya, yes, Anya. Anything on in July?
Yeah, I think the different task is to be done by a Zoom also, but I have no specific date as of the moment. But there are several Zoom meetings, regional and cross-regional meetings that will be done.
Okay.
But so far there are no specific dates yet for July.
All right. So shall we put our date first then?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so let's look at it. If 15th of July is one unit's last date to work on it, maybe we can gather together on a Thursday, maybe the 22nd of July. We book that date first, yeah? 11 a.m. to like now, just 2 hours, and then we will see where we are. And in the meantime, I will send you another Google form to complete on your processes. Yes, Paula.
It's to say that I think Jamie's hosting digital communications is on that Thursday.
Okay.
So Wednesday or Friday is good.
Okay. So maybe Wednesday the 21st of July. Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. I will send out the Zoom link so that you can also, once you accept it, it can be in your calendars, your digital calendars. 11 a.m. like today, no? 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Malaysian time. So I just want to close with asking everyone just for one word reaction. Maybe you can type it in the chat box. I didn't have time to do any Mentimeter today. Or maybe you can just shout out from where you are your one word reaction to the session today. Okay, we've got hopeful, very engaging, challenging, thankful, comprehensive, simple. Oh, I'm glad it was simple. Inspiring. That's grateful, conscious, informative, better understanding. Yeah, more clarity, inspiring, need to start, practical, motivated, nourishing, enriching, enlightening, very insightful. Thank you for your comments. Thank you very much. Feel free to reach out as a unit if you need some clarity, or if you want to come together as a unit to think things through, and if you need some facilitation, just let me know, because we have a lot of time from now to July to see if anyone needs just a little bit more clarity. So with that, I want to thank all of you for your attention. It's been really good. Thank you so much. You can unmute and, have a ball by saying goodbye to everyone. Yes. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Teresa.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.